And so if that's true, the opposite is also true. We can work towards success. We can address climate change in and only in as much as we change our attitude and we say, we have the resources, we have the finance, we know what the policies should be, and above all, we have the human spirit, the human innovation, the human determination to focus all of that on addressing climate change. So it was a multi-year process to change everyone's attitudes. Then, of course, we were also helped by the fact that technology solutions came down in price. The renewable energy prices came down. We were very helped by geopolitics because we had President Obama in his second term and willing to use some of his last political capital on this. We were incredibly benefited by enlightened leadership in China, as well as in many other countries. So many, many stars aligned for that, what you call one moment. That was actually a very long moment, like a 5-year long moment.
I think it's quite interesting. It's a journey we've been on at the foundation. Our goal as the foundation is to accelerate the transition to a circular economy, as fast as possible. And when we entered into the climate space and we looked in great detail at how the circular economy can help us to tackle climate change, it really struck me that so much of the climate conversation is about switching to renewables and energy efficiency, which is obviously absolutely vital. That we understand that, everybody understands that. But then there's the 45%, which is about how we make products, how we use products. That could be, cars or phones or food systems. They have a massive implication towards climate change. And yet, in the conversation, that part doesn't seem to be illustrated as well. There's the energy transition, we get it, we're on it, we're transforming. But there's a massive potential there. And when we looked at the numbers, looking at steel, cement, plastic, food systems and aluminium, and switched those to circularity, about half that 45% could be tackled with that. So we feel incredibly optimistic that there's this great opportunity through shifting to circularity to work towards climate targets. But how do you feel about that optimism and that circularity potential in the climate discussions, particularly at COP26? Do you think it's there enough?
No, it's definitely not there enough. And I am, thoroughly delighted that you all are pushing on this, because to be perfectly honest, we are still at the point in which most of the effort and most of the focus and most of the financing is going toward how do we produce X? How do we produce energy? How do we produce transport? How do we produce food? And so we're still very much caught into this linear thinking and still caught in chapters 1 and 2 of that linear thinking, right, which is extraction and use. And we haven't closed the loop to figure out, and then what happens? Once you produce the solar panel, once you produce the wind turbine, once you produce the electric vehicle, and then what?
We have a plan. We have the tools. We're using them, we're making progress. We just have to finish the job. Finish the job. So for God's sake, for your own sake, for the sake of your families, it's half naked. We can do this. We can do this if we do it together. And we can literally change the circumstances, the health, the camaraderie, the employment, and the access to a growing economy if we step up and lead the world. So look, things are changing, and we can end this. We can end this thing. It's easy, it's accessible, and it's free to get to gravity. So look, things are changing. Things are changing. Things are changing. Things are changing.
You're hearing a lot about something called supply chains and how hard it is to get a range of things from a toaster to sneakers to bicycles to bedroom furniture. And that's why back in February, I signed a piece of legislation on supply chain, an executive order on supply chains, and we had to move on it. And with the holidays coming up, you might be wondering if gifts you plan to buy will arrive on time. Well, let me explain. Supply chains essentially mean how we make things and how the material and parts get delivered to a factory, so we can manufacture things and manufacture them here. How we move things, how a finished product moves from a factory to a store to your home.
Is sitting in all these containers behind us?
Everything.
Longshoremen telling me some of these containers have been sitting here for 6 months, with a shortage of truck drivers to get the goods on the highway and into stores. It's not just making things harder to find, it's making them more expensive.
Today we face an economy that's in transition. And as part of that transition, we are seeing high prices for some of the things that people have to buy. But the reality is that the only way we're going to get to a place where we work through this transition is if everyone in America and everyone around the world gets vaccinated. That's why the president continues to be focused on the idea that we get everyone who can vaccinated in this country.
Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it?
Climate change is a result of our take, make, waste economy. And until now, we've looked at solving climate change largely by switching to renewable energy. We're replacing fossil fuels with wind and solar power at speed all over the world. But the truth is that the energy transition will only solve half the climate problem. It's like we've been reading only half the book, like we've been watching only half the movie. So what completes the picture? Transforming how industry uses materials and how we manage land. That is, transitioning to a circular economy. It's more than energy. It's about transformation. What does that mean? It means we address things before they become a problem and design out emissions before production even begins. We build an economy that eliminates waste and pollution, keeps products and materials in use, and regenerates natural systems. The circular economy can help address climate change by reducing emissions from industry, land use, and agriculture. So how do we make this transition? By businesses embedding the circular economy in their climate strategies and redesigning products and services. By governments setting enabling policies and putting the necessary infrastructure in place. By investors mobilizing capital towards circular economy solutions.
The circular economy plays a really key role in solving many of the problems around climate change. But what it also does is it builds a more resilient economy.
A complete picture of a thriving, zero-emissions economy is coming into focus. The mission now is to make it a reality.
Healthcare professionals have said to me, if you think COVID is bad, when it comes to climate change, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's the grandmother of all health threats. COVID and climate change are compounding each other, and they're adding pressures on already weak health systems and staff. And it's why business as usual is not an option. And it's why now we need to truly have health at the centre of all our policies: energy, transport, agriculture, water and food.
So how do we make this transition? By businesses embedding the circular economy in their climate strategies and redesigning products and services.
Today, we face an economy that's in transition.
Linear economy relies on cheap, easily available resources and fossil energy. We take, make, use, and dispose, eating into a finite supply of materials and generating waste. What's more, resources and energy are getting increasingly tough and expensive to exploit. So can it work long term? This is where the idea of a performance-based circular economy comes in. What if we didn't buy the goods themselves, but the service? What if we favoured access and performance?
So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink. A way to cycle valuable metals, polymers and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together.
In this model, manufacturers or retailers would remain the owners of the products. Maintenance and repairs becoming part of the deal. Even better if running costs, like electricity, were included. Buying expensive goods up front would no longer be a necessity. It already happens with mobile phones and cars. Why not fridges, washing machines, power tools and so on? Of course, there is a wide variety of needs, of individuals, of businesses. This is not a one-size-fits-all proposition. Hundreds of different solutions can be designed with tailored contracts. Variety, freedom, flexibility, and frequent upgrades. Take car-sharing schemes. We can either use vehicles owned by manufacturers, car-sharing companies, or sign up to a local person-to-person network. Communication technologies mean that our world is fast becoming a platform where we find, exchange services, or even remarket goods. It's all about access. Materials extraction and production can represent up to 75% of the energy used to make goods. So if remanufacturing were introduced at scale, it would dramatically reduce our energy needs. At systems level, this would help the switch to renewable sources. A system that works long-term by designing out waste and keeping valuable products in the loop, and maintaining or remanufacturing them, creating jobs in the process. Shifting to a performance model is part of the solution when it comes to accelerating the transition to a circular economy. There's a world of opportunities for businesses as well as individuals, and the shift has already begun.
As we have been covering for years now, the Great Transition cannot be any more clear and present. In fact, they are now coming right out and saying it. Though there are many aspects of this transition, there is a significant angle being played out. What is most important here is the economy is in transition, quote. and more specifically, the precise type of economy that we are transitioning into. We're going from a linear industrial economy that tends to be described by greed, big corporations, waste, and oppressive functioning, that of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. The answer to this old world system is the new world informational system called the circular economy. It is described to not just eliminate waste, but scale it. It attempts to mimic the natural process of the earth and regenerate goods and materials via service exchange and repurposing. Sounds like heaven on earth to modern day environmentalists, yet there is a huge problem involved. The circular economy as a system relies on fourth industrial revolution network technology. Hence the move to informationalism opposed to industrialism. Instead of owning materials and building personal wealth, this system promotes a sharing economy or renting economy, where ownership is outlawed, and the collective group, with equitable resources provided by a centralized corporate technocracy, replaces individualism, private property, and general privacy altogether. This is why you will not hear about this transition in mainstream media, because it is the underlying subtext that would awaken society to the chains that are slowly being locked around their wrists and ankles. Just as the materials and manufacturing system will be tracked, logged, and managed via highly sophisticated AI algorithms, or what they call the Internet of Things, people will be treated the same and tracked, traced, monitored, and managed via biometric data, behavioral data, and of course, geometric data.
But today, Wi-Fi connected devices like heart rate monitors and sleep trackers have become common parts of American life. How has bionic technology evolved so quickly from science fiction to reality? And what could this Internet of Bodies mean for our lives moving forward? RAND researchers are studying this phenomenon and what consumers and policymakers need to know as we veer into uncharted territory.
The Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the internet that contain software and that either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about you. And in healthcare, it's Internet of Bodies has been around for quite a while. With the advent of the internet, it makes a lot of sense to connect your pacemaker to the internet so that your doctor can be automatically notified if something weird happens, if there's an anomaly. It's natural in a lot of ways to want to understand more about your body, how it functions, how well it's doing.
IOB devices could revolutionize healthcare. Unprecedented amounts of personal health data could inform treatment plans that are completely tailored to a patient's needs.
There are pills now that have an electronic sensor that let a healthcare provider know whether you have taken the medication. Other things like precision medicine. So precision medicine is the idea of creating pharmaceuticals or treatment like specifically for your body, for your personalized treatment. And I think IOB could really help with that because nowadays a lot of healthcare is based more on, average reactions, whereas with data from IOB devices, you might be able to really more precisely treat a certain disease.
But the Internet of Bodies won't be a cure-all. In fact, the largely unregulated market poses risks to the uniquely sensitive data these devices collect.
First of all, there's the cyber risk of an actor potentially hacking into the system, whatever it might be. There's the privacy risk of all this data that's being collected, and the regulations about that data are really murky at the moment. And so there's not a lot of clarity into who owns the data, what happens to it, who it gets sold to, how it's being used. And there's even potentially national security and global security risks.
They call this the Internet of Bodies, or Web 3.0. A possible reason we are seeing the heavy push for mandates and injection is the urgent need for infrastructure. In order for the biosecurity state to function, it must build its biodigital infrastructure first. This is being done through the development and international implementation of smart tech verification apps, wearable and implantable devices, tracking and notification services like geofencing, and of course, the ubiquitous QR code. These integrated network biometric systems will be part of an international digital identification program that will establish the new world normal of the fourth industrial revolution. Public health mandates make for an easy process to sign people up and integrate such technologies into everyone's lives. Fear, guilt, and apathy assist in shaping the needed compliant behavior towards these technologies as well. Once the tech has been diffused and distributed, accepted by the public, and integrated into the function of overall society, the mission is complete. This is being currently accomplished through compulsion and seizure. Coercing and controlling the masses has been the mission for 18 months straight. This has a great deal to do with free will and breaking the free will of the populations. This is about transition, not viruses, nor climate. If full spectrum dominance has been their plan from the beginning, the circular economy and Internet of Bodies will serve it up on a silver platter.
Our industries and our offices. What I wanted to epitomize with the Internet of Bodies is this notion that we will be under assessment, we will be under measure of computation in every aspect of our lives in the future. From what you eat, who you date, what you buy on the internet, how much energy you use, but also what are your vital signs? How well are you doing in terms of health? What kind of specific genetic quirks do you have? What's your genome telling about your health, about your mental health, about how well you are doing, how well you are aging, what kind of disease you are susceptible to?
It has a bit of an Orwellian twinge to it.
Well,
in order for the circular economy and the fourth industrial revolution to take place, they must fully eradicate the free society belief system. Since we are moving away from a free society to a communitarian society, Americanism and individualistic worldviews stands as a huge roadblock. The only roadblock that is more threatening is the Christian faith. Not the church, not the religion, but its truth, its way, and its life. Within this break is the goal to disqualify rights to bodily autonomy, all in the nominal and pseudo name of community or the greater good. This process also primes populations for compulsory surveillance medicine as part of their new experiences on Earth. Ultimately, this opens the doors, or should we say veins, for the acceptance of compulsory biotechnological and genomic therapies and injections.
It is not too crazy to think that an outbreak of a novel avian virus could occur in China somewhere. We could get the RNA sequence from that, beam it to a number of regional centers, if not local, if not even in your home at some point, and print those vaccines on a patch and self-administer.
Once the population is fine with being poked and prodded at the will of the state, the Internet of Bodies will be just another momentary inconvenience. No big deal. It's always been this way, right? But what about supply chains? We can look at this as a way to quickly usher in the circular economy by indirectly deconstructing the linear economy in place. Currently, they are sadistically holding markets hostage by throttling deliver and transport systems, leveraging supply chain dysfunction through creating dysfunction. This dysfunction is being shaped by design. Forced mandates are the mechanism of chaos creation. They know very well people will resist, and here they aim to leverage that resistance in a way that brings down the entire system. Will this play out to plan? Only time will tell, but their moves are easy to calculate, and they are growing more fearful by the week.